we are going to be learning how to make 3D all-season trees. Years ago at church, my mom would have this Super Saturday, make all the Christmas crafts and things that you could right before Christmas, gifts, right, to give to people. And I remember they had this really neat, soft, cushiony tree that they had for Christmas. I remember as a child thinking, oh, that is so neat. I would love to someday make one of those. And for years and years, I never saw anything like it again until I saw this book, Modern Holiday. But it's Deck the Halls with 18 Sewing Projects, Quilts, Stockings, Decorations, and more. And right here, they have trees for all seasons. And so anyway, you can get your pattern inside this book. You can go on Amazon or wherever else to look for it. And so what I'm going to do, and one thing that they teach, is that you can actually make several different sizes of trees to decorate with. And so I'm going to teach you how to take a piece of paper and draw your own tree so that you can get started right away. So as you can see here, these are some of the trees that I've made. I made this one to match curtains that I had, and this one to match my pillowcases in my bedroom. And then my son, he made this one for Christmas. And you can see they're all just a little bit slightly different. A lot of it has to do with how you cut your pattern and also how much stuffing you put in. Like if you put a ton of stuffing in, it's gonna be super, super thick. Or if you wanna just put not quite as much. So if you wanna just get a regular piece of paper, so I just cut some off for this because I wanna make a large tree. Or if you wanna get just a regular piece of paper, you can use that too. So let's use the edge of whatever paper you have, and we're going to take it and we're going to draw, and we're just going to eyeball it. Okay, so I want mine to go kind of up this time with little points. So you can do however you want. Okay, so that's kind of how I'm going to do mine this time. I'm going to have the bottom be a little bit larger. I think that might be a little bit too far out. And that's the thing, you can look at it and you can readjust it. That's why we're doing it on paper. I think I'm going to just have it go right here. Okay, this is half your tree. You're going to lay this on the fold of your fabric. Okay. So put on, fold. Whatever pattern you decide to make, what you're going to do is you're going to lay this on the fold of your fabric and cut out 6. Cut out 6. Okay? So go ahead and make your pattern for your half tree. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and trace this in black so I can see it better. Okay, so I'm just writing down put on fold and cut 6. Okay, so once you do that, cut out your pattern. Once you have that cut out, go ahead and get your fabric and iron it and get it prepared. So when we fold our fabric, we're going to fold the right sides together so it'll be ready to start sewing as soon as you cut it out. So we're going to take our little tree here and we're going to put it along the edge and then take it and bring it as far over as we can. So I don't want to waste any fabric at all. I want to see how many trees I can make with this 1 yard of fabric. Okay, so once I've got it to the edge, I'm going to take my pins. So I like just pinning down each leg of the tree so that it'll be set when I'm cutting it out. Okay, then grab your scissors and cut around it, and then this will be lined up so we can cut out the next tree. So remember, we have to cut out 6. So we're just going to go straight down, and we're going to do 1 here, and then here, and 3. So we should be able to get at least 3 on this stretch right here. You could figure out how to fold it to cut more at once. So because this is folded, this is just 1 tree. Okay, and what this is going to do, it's going to make it so that both sides are going to be even. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this out, show you what it's going to look like. Make sure that this is how we want it to look. Okay, so this is how this particular tree is going to look. It's going to look like it has some cute little bows all over it. It's going to be cute. Okay, so go ahead and cut out 6 total trees. Okay, so for this next one, I'm going to cut 2 at once. So I have it folded down this way, and then I'm going to fold it in half. And then, because I have it this way, I'm going to, I'm turning my pattern so it's reversed. Okay. And then I'm lining them both up, making sure that I have enough fabric on both sides to cover the legs of the tree, and then I will pin it through, just like we did last time. And that way I have 2 that I'm doing at once this time. Okay, I just have to move the fabric around to get all the little legs. The fun thing about this pattern is you can tweak it and you can make your tree bigger next time or smaller, fatter, skinnier, however you want it to be. Like I said, I wanted mine to be a little skinnier than my other trees this time. So I am doing a kind of a skinnier tree. Okay, so now I have three done, and I'll go ahead and I'll cut out 3 more. So once you have your 6 trees cut out, come back here and I'll show you how we're going to put them together to sew them. Okay, so here we have our trees. We're going to lay one down flat with the face up. Then we're going to take the other one and lay it face down on top of it and line it up the best that you can on it. Sometimes when you are cutting them out individually, one might be slightly larger than the other. When you have that as the case, then you want to try and look and find the one that is the smaller one and make sure that it's on top. So like this, you can see there's like the dark fabric is shining through on this, showing through. So what this means is I'm going to sew with on the smaller one. So I can sew right along at the edge. I'm going to do a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, 1/4 inch all the way around. So we'll go ahead and pin it and I'll show you how to sew it. It is a tricky way of sewing it, so you do want to make sure that you follow the way you're supposed to sew it. So I usually I'll pin right in the middle of the tree and like the points to keep it together. So when I come down to the bottom, I'm actually going to use 4 pins. So we want an opening right here. So right here you want an opening. So I'm going to leave an opening right here. I'm going to put 2 pins here. And I'm going to do 2 pins here. Because I want an opening right here on this leg. And then I also want an opening right here on this leg. So you need 2 different openings, and you'll see why in just a minute. It's a little tricky the way this comes together, but it's really fun and surprising of how it all works out. Okay, so that's right. I always put 2 pins to show me my start and my stop. Okay, so I'm going to sew the centerpiece first. I'm going to sew here, back stitch, and then just do a tiny little V and come down, back stitch here. And then I'm going to skip this little opening spot here, and I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to sew, back stitch, and then I'm going to go all the way around, and then I'll be right here and back stitch, and then I'll be done sewing this tree. Okay. So an idea that I do is I'll pin all of my trees first, so then I can just sew all of them at the same time. So take some time to pin all your trees together, your 3 layers, and then we'll go to the sewing machine. One thing I want to point out, so when you are doing your little opening, you want to leave the same amount on both sides of the center of the tree. So if it's about this far away from this side, then you want to do that far away from the other side, so that you'll have a nice center tree, not off balance when you're sewing it, and when it's all done, it will sit crooked if you don't have this point. So you come straight down, and even that is a little bit off. So if you want to measure it, that's great. Otherwise, eyeball it and just try to make sure that it is pretty much even centered from one side to the other. Okay, here we have our tree, and remember we have the smaller side face up, and we're going to start right here. We have the 2 sets of pins. This is our opening, and we'll start sewing right at this one and go around. Remember, we're doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so arrange your needle so it's in the right place and get going. Remember to pivot on the corners, put the needle down and turn. And on the inside also, put the needle down and turn. You go in far enough so that you're not going to have, so it's not going to touch the edge of your fabric. So I'm finding at certain points I'm going to have to lift up my foot so that the fabric doesn't twist in. So if you go too far, like I did right there, just back stitch until you're back to your 1/4 inch, and then keep going. Okay, so right here I noticed that one of my branches of my tree got tucked under, so make sure you bring it out so you don't sew over top of it. Okay, and then back stitch. Go forward just a little bit. Okay, so with this you leave the opening, and then I didn't let's see. Then we're gonna go to the center and gonna sew between the two openings. Okay, go ahead and cut your strings and take all your pins out. Okay, so these are pinking shears. Pinking shears are scissors with little teeth on them like that, okay? So what they do is they'll make little jagged edges, which are perfect for when you have curves, okay? So for like on the top of the tree, I can cut right along the edge, and I cut it right into the garbage can that I have down below. And so it's gonna make little edges that go back and forth. So you can see the little edges that it makes. So if you don't happen to have pinking shears, then the next thing you can do is you can take either your little scissors or bigger scissors if that's what you have. And so we're going to trim, so you can see how far in this comes. So we're gonna trim it a little bit along the edge. And then I like using my little embroidery scissors. And then what we do is we just do little snips. And what these little snips do it every about half an inch. These little snips help it so that it will be rounded. And so at the point we're going to cut off the little triangle point. And then we'll just go around and keep going so that we actually have 1/4 inch. Okay. Then once again, I'm going to do the little snips. Sometimes it works better if you cut on the inside right here, but you need to be careful so you don't actually cut the thread, or you're going to have to re-sew it again. Because what that will do is it'll start coming undone, and then when you put stuffing in it, the stuffing will start popping out. Okay? So just go along and do little snips. When I get down to the center here, I'm going to do like a V. I'll do it and then I'll show you. So you can see the little V right there. Okay. And you can see that there's a whole bunch of fabric right here, so I'm going to be trimming that off. And then doing the snips, like I was saying. Okay? So that's what we're going to do, is trim all the way around all 3 of your pieces. It was 6, but sewed them together, and now you have 3 pieces. Okay? So I am going to go ahead and use my pinking shears since it's a little bit faster. So when you get to the bottom, you have this opening here and you have this opening here, and I do not, I don't use my shears on that because you want to be able to fold it in to be able to sew it, and we will be sewing that by hand. So we just go along and trim it. And then, okay, now we're gonna do the same. There's just a tiny bit right here in the center that we're gonna do. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go through, just pick one of the openings. It does not matter which. You're going to take all of your pieces and you're going to just start turning it right side out. We're not using both of the openings, just one. That confused me at first. It's like, do I have to reverse it through both of them? No, you just reverse it through one of them. And then you want to push out each of your little branches with your finger, or you can get a pencil with a large eraser and use that to push it in. Okay. A lot of times just using my fingers will help push everything out. It's just a little bit of work getting it all pushed out. Once I've done all that I can with my fingers, then I get a straight pin, and this is when I start picking out the pieces. You can see that they're tucked in, and everywhere they're tucked in, I start pulling them out with my pin. And then I'll go on to the next part, give it a little tug and make it all nice, and start, see this one, how it's tucked in right there. So I'll just start poking it out until every little last part is unfolded. That way you get your little points that you wanted for your tree. Here is my first part of my tree. So go ahead and finish sewing the next two parts and then bring them up and put them on your table. Okay, so here we have our 3 tree pieces finished. We're going to go ahead and line them up on top of each other so they are centered right down the center. Okay, then go ahead and get 2 pins, and we'll pin one on the right and one on the left. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start right here at the top, and then we're going to sew and backstitch, and then sew right down the middle and backstitch right here at the bottom. Okay. Okay, so first I changed out my thread to match my tree. I got red again. So I'm putting all of the tree tops together so they're all lined up, all the same size, and I'm gonna put my needle right in the middle again and then begin sewing. Remember to backstitch. And if you hold it right here at the bottom, then you can get it to go straight. And backstitch at the bottom, and then drive right off. And cut your threads, and then take out your pins. Okay, and this is where we will get our stuffing now, and we will fill up each hole. There's 6 holes here. Once you have your bag of stuffing, go ahead and just pull off a little handful, and we'll work on one leg at a time. We'll open up the little opening, and we're going to stuff it through. And you know, you can start with your fingers and stuff as far as you can. Then I get a pencil with a really good eraser and then poke it through to the end. If you can find a brand new one that doesn't have a pointy edge, that is even better. Unfortunately, all mine are sharpened. Okay, so you'll see once you get to the end, it's really good to take it and shove it all the way to the very, very, very end to stuff up that point. Takes a little bit of effort to get it all down there. Okay, once you have that as tight as you can, then you go ahead and get your next little handful. And it takes some time. It's fun sometimes to turn on a movie and stuff it while you're watching a movie or listening to a book or whatever it is you like to do. Turn on some music. So, but it'll take some time to stuff your little tree. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and stuff it and then come back and I'll show you how to sew up the bottom. I'm pushing it out to the branch now. So now I've got the branch done. And I'm going to work on the next branch. So each little piece of stuffing I'm putting it into the next, further down the branch. So this one is going to go to, I'm on the second branch down. And now I'm going to work on the third branch, the one closest to the bottom. So I'm going to fill also the center part. So we've got the center part of the tree that I want to make sure is good and full. Make sure that there's no lines. See, if you fill it in right here, then it's not going to be bendy. Come up with my own words. Sometimes smaller handful is better. And now I'm going to do the point of the tree branch. Shove it all the way in there. Okay, so you can see it's still, there's like a little line right here. So I'm going to try and push it in a little firmer. And which now I can put a little bit more stuffing in. You don't want to overstuff it, or you can actually pop your stitches out, which I've done before, and then I had to go in and I had to whip stitch it closed. So that's what you do. If you end up putting too much, you will have to just tie a knot and sew it closed if you end up ripping it out. Okay, so this one is good enough. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm actually going to pin it so that the stuffing doesn't come out. So I have my pin and I'm just going to pin this opening shut. Okay, so then once I have all 6 done, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to whip stitch them closed. Now that we have our tree all stuffed, now we're going to work on how we're going to sew up the bottom. Okay, so we have our needle and it's all threaded, and when I do it, I double it and then do a knot at the bottom and I double knot it. Okay, so we'll take one of the legs that we're going to do. We've got them all pinned, and then I start near the inside. You're going to start either on the inside here or the inside here, whichever direction you want to start. But stick your pin inside and then pull the needle out. What the goal is your tail, you want your tail to stay on the inside. Okay, so as you saw, this pulled all the way through, which means I need to make another knot on top of the ones that I have. You want it to be a thick enough knot that it won't pull through your fabric. So if it pulls through like mine just did, then you're going to knot another one right on top of the other ones. Okay, so now we're going to pull it through again, and we're going to put it through right here, and then see if this one will stay the same. Okay, good. So this one is staying. So then you're taking the tail and you're going to push it inside the hole. Okay, so there's a little bit of cotton that is trying to come out, but we'll clean it all up once we get it all sewed. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this pin out so it doesn't keep sticking me. Okay, so now that we've got our hole here, so I'm just going to hold it. We're just going to do it really easy. This is for beginners. I will show you two different ways. For beginners, I just suggest that you go from one side to the other and pull it through. No one ever looks at the bottom. It's just not something that people are going to look at. So the quicker you do it, the better, and just get it done. And we're just going back and forth from one side to the other. I'm just pinching it, and I'm just going from one side to the other. And I did do black thread so that it would all match. So, and I did take the sides and I finger pressed it so that it would be pressed down so that all of the raw edges are on the inside. Okay, so once we get to the end, there's going to be a little point right here where you sewed right here. Okay, and then just make sure you sew that point up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make another knot. So we're going to take it, we're going to loop it around and bring it in. And then we're going to put our needle right here at where the thread is coming up, and then pull it tight, and then we're going to do it again on top of it. Okay, so loop it around, put the needle down and pull it tight. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to take the needle and we're going to go back down, and then we're going to come up. And the goal of this is to pull that knot inside so you can't see it. Okay, and then we're going to just get our scissors and pull it tight and pull it, and then you just relax it, and that little string goes inside of the leg. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on each of them. We're just going to whip stitch it shut and tie it. Okay, so if you are a more seasoned seamstress, I'm going to show you another way of doing it with the next leg. And what this one does is it hides the stitches. Okay, so after you take your pin out, so right here you can see that I have folded in the sides. I've finger pressed it. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to start on the edge and see if it's gonna stay in, push the tail inside. Okay, so this time what I want you to see how I'm going to do it is I'm going to grab the inside of the fold right here, and then I'm going to grab the other side and just go back and forth, and then pull it through. And you've seen me do this on some of my other videos. And this helps hide your stitch. So you're just grabbing the inside and this is a cleaner stitch. So we're just trying to grab the inside layer so it doesn't go all the way through. And you decide which is best for you. Then we just do the same thing. We wrap it around and make a knot. do a knot again. Then we're going to stick it through so that it will be hidden. And pull it tight and trim it off. And if you want to trim these little strings, little batting that's sticking up, give it a little haircut. Okay, so now we just have 4 more to do. So go ahead and finish that. So now that your tree is done, one thing that I have done for many years is I have taken a piece of candy and I have safety pinned it all over the tree, and it became an Advent tree so that my children could take off a piece of candy each day. That's one thing we did. One year we actually got the Christmas story and put little pieces of paper with the Christmas story on, and we would take off one and read it each day. There's lots of different ideas that you can do with this. It's a fun gift to give to people with candy on it. You just get the little tiny safety pins that you can pin on the candy on the tree, and it's a great gift. So hope you have a good holiday season, and thanks for joining Creating Joy.